So I'm back. Actually, I was kicked off from the meeting myself. And okay, I think I need to increase the capacity of the room for maybe another session. And so let's see where we were. Okay, j'ai pas pu terminer le quartier circle. Anyway, let's continue where we've reached. So that's good. We have that shows an interest in this topic, in this subject that we are discussing today. And let's continue. Okay, and we are already 10 past 11. We have a few much more to complete. So we're discussing about personal contribution, active involvement. Let me just check if it is being recorded. Yeah. Okay. So active involvement in design activities, that is, you need to be able to demonstrate that you have not only been sitting around, you have been doing design activity. I put design in red because, okay, design, it's about, it's not about inventing something new, but maybe doing some specific, maybe if for electrical engineers, maybe at the CB, if you are doing a more project, okay, we need to know, okay, what is the transformer size that we are going to use? How many transformers are we going to use? Is the system going to be overhead or underground? Okay, so these are different design criteria. Now we need to do the cable sizing. We need to select the proper type of transformer. So all these different approaches, the protection system, the lightning protection system, where are we going to position our lightning arrestor, the earthing system that are going to be used. So all these form part of design activities. That is from my perspective, but I understand that for civil engineering, the reinforcement, what type of reinforcement, what are the different things that you are going to use, these are going to be of design importance as well. And then we're discussing about monitoring engineering metrics. Let's say you were doing the earth measurement, let's say for routine maintenance. If you want to build a substation there, you need to have a proper earthing system in place. You do a measurement, you're having 20 ohm. You need to have, let's say, 5 ohm. Okay, so what are the different steps that you need to do now? Okay, so you can see what are the different options that you have in hand, maybe to use different, maybe piquet, okay, additional things that you are going to use, or you may even use maybe going deeper using bigger size of earthing rod and so on. So you can check, you can do calculations on these different methods, the costing and so on as well. And then you can propose which one is going to be best suited for your case. Then after you have implemented that, you redo your measurement and see whether these expected result has been met. You have been able to bring down the initial value of earthing to a lower value, which is now optimal for your activities that you are going to do there. You should handwritten calculation is from first principle, okay, just as we have mentioned, using the principles, the basic physics or engineering principles which you have learned previously to be able to show your calculation. It's not only about, it's good, you need to show it that you have done it in software approach as well, but as well you need to be able to understand, to show that you can do it through hand calculation as well. Okay, again for chapter number 4, report submitted on problem solving. We said at the beginning that engineers are here to solve problems, engineering problems. So how do you go about solving problems? Investigating, you have troubleshooting. Okay, so let's say the lamps is not switching on. You are trying to switch on the lamp, but the light is not turning on. What can be the problem? So you can use what we call, you can have, so this is a simple problem. If there is maybe electricity in another room, so it's not about the utility. If you're having electricity, maybe another lamp is lighting in the same room, so it's not the connection in this the electrical supply in this room. So it's mostly a problem, and a specific problem in the lamp itself. So this is how are you troubleshooting. So you can have different method. You have the 5 why method. Okay, you ask why, or you can even go for the Ishikawa diagram. Okay, when you have much more complex engineering problems, to see, okay, we need to troubleshoot what are the different things which could have gone wrong, and then we go by elimination. So this Ishikawa diagram or fishbone diagram is going to stay. Every time you're having a problem, the lamp is not switching on, You just put your Ishikawa diagram. Okay, utility is not an issue because we have power in different rooms. Wiring maybe in this cabling bringing power to this room is okay because other lamps are on in this room. Only one lamp is not working. So then you can, through elimination, you can pinpoint the root cause of the problem. So different approaches. This is one or two approaches which I'm giving you. So many approaches to problem solving. And engineering assignment, most likely your engineer, supervising engineer is going to give you assignment, okay, specific assignment to do, maybe work out this calculation, do this sag tension calculation and so on. And you can include these in your report. Decision-making techniques. How do you make decision? As engineer, we need to make decision. It may be based on financial, if you are trying to have different projects that you need to implement, but you can implement, you have funds, you need to implement one. What decision are you going to take? So you may be using financial decision-making tools, NPV, IRR calculations. So engineering decision as well, okay? Which equipment, let's say you need to recommend an equipment to be used. So maybe one is let's say 5 rupees, but you're going to use it for 5 days. The other one is 7 rupees, but you're going to use it for 30 days. Okay, so you need to be able to do this decision making. Or this one, it gives you much more reliability. I'm taking very simple exercise, but you can, just to give you an idea about what we are trying to impress here. It may be our reliability. You're investing bigger money here, but then your system is going to be much more reliable in the future. These are decision making, which is based on engineering principles as well. Contribution in system processes or process improvement. Okay, one question at times, so one situation which arises many times is that we have been doing it this way for the last 30 years. Why do you want to change it now? Okay, so you get this issue, you get this situation a lot of time. I've got it at my place when I was trying to bring in new things. The system has been working for so long. Why do you want to improve it? But there's new technology, new ways of looking at it, and you can improve, you can demonstrate. So through simulation, through calculation, through maybe prototyping, that the system can be improved and you can work on these different proposals. It's interesting because as a trainee, okay, you can have an independent, like a third person viewing the problem. Okay, if you have been seeing it too much, like every day, okay, you have been working with the system every day, you won't be seeing the flaws in it. But if you're having someone from elsewhere, just having another view of the problem, they can contribute to your process improvement. Okay. Now, chapter number 5. So we have spent much time in chapter number 4 for personal contribution. Now, chapter number 5, which is about analytical tools. Okay. So we talk about the importance of working from first principle, hand calculations and so on. But then we need to also, we can't like do cable sizing calculation for all the different size of cables we have in a building or in a morcellement, in a region and so on. So we need to show that we understand it, yes, but then we need to be able to demonstrate that we are able to use the new technologies nowadays. We have new tools, okay, CAD/CAM design and so on, prototyping, different ways by which you can do prototyping. So these are going to help us. Okay, you have AutoCAD, you have and so on. What are the tools that you are using for the new tools, okay, in this new era that you are using for problem solving and design? Okay, so you are aware about these in your own fields. Okay, conclusion. Now, analytical tools, it may not only be like high-end, sophisticated equipment, okay, or software. You can even have it for like an elaborated Excel sheet. Okay, an elaborated Excel sheet has so many functions in it if you are able to learn how to use Excel properly. So you can use even an elaborated Excel sheet to be able to demonstrate analytical tools. Like if you change one value, just input the value here, you can get the results, what's going to be. So you have input all the different equations, okay, the different parameters. It's already inbuilt in your software. And then you just need to input a few parameters that are going to calculate. So instead of going for repetitive calculation, software can do that for you. So it is one way by which you can use a simple software to be able to demonstrate analytical tools as well. Okay. Chapter number 6, last one, is going to be about your own perception of training. Okay, what is this training for you? Okay, how has it gone? Maybe any issue that you would like to highlight, improvement which can be done. Okay, any shortcomings you have had, but don't try to stress too much on shortcomings, something that you have not. Okay, I wanted to learn maybe about engines, I've not been able. Okay, try to bring a positive maybe approach to this like chapter as well. Okay, it's most like a 1.5 page, maximum 2 page chapter. Okay, to conclude. Okay, so that was about the report itself, how to write the report when you need to store the different chapters that you need to have in it. Next is going to be notes on this training report. So the pages needs to be initialed by the supervisor. I'm going to go into presentation mode. Hope the system is much more balanced now, much more stable. So each pages of your report should be initialed by your supervisor. Okay, you know who the supervisor is now. Okay, what are his criteria for him to be eligible for supervision? You need to submit the one original, the training logbook, which we have discussed about, and soft copy as well of the training logbook and the report. And then there's an application for registration, a form that needs to be filled. Include your own drawings in the report. Okay, now in terms of drawing, most of the time you can have it. There are some complicated, sophisticated drawings which you can go borrow from books and so on, but don't make it like a copy and paste exercise from the net. At times, if you're able to, you have work on a specific maybe document or a project, you can have your own, you can produce your own drawing. It's going to add much more value to your report. Now, in terms of drawing, be careful that you have IPs as well. Okay, intellectual property rights on some drawing. Always ask for permission before putting any drawings that you have from projects and so on in your report. Now let's cover a bit about the statement of competencies. Okay, we have discussed about the technicalities of the report. Now remember about the different things which are surrounding this heavy technical report. These are different competencies or skills that you will need to demonstrate. The first part is basically, and if you have already understood what's happening in the 6 chapters, you're going to meet these competencies. First one is application of scientific and engineering principle knowledge to engineering design. So when you're going to have to present your design, so your design is going to be based on some engineering principle. So definitely by default, you're going to be able to prove this scientific principle. That's why if you stick to using the first principle approach, definitely you're going to be able to demonstrate this scientific and engineering principle. It's not like a design which you just, okay, rule of thumb or you just, okay, I just thought about it and this is it. No, it's not like magical. You have used engineering principle to come up with a design, with a project. Theoretical approach to new technology, okay? If you are quality improvement, innovation, I think we discussed about that. What is the process you are using? Analysis and problem solving. We are here to solve problems. What problem have been put to you? Okay, assignments and so on. How you have been able to solve this problem, engineering problem? What is the approach you have been using? Conducting experiment, so many experiment, and we discuss about the earth measurement. You can have measurement of transformers. For concrete as well, you have measurement, okay? And materials properties. Materials is important. We are going to see it in the form later on. So what are materials is that, let's say for my case, there may be cables. You have aluminum cables and then copper cables. So it's material properties. When do I need to go for to recommend a copper cable, and when do I need to recommend an aluminum cable? It is technical, yes, but let's say copper is a better conductor than aluminum, but why don't I put copper everywhere on the streets and so on to supply people? Because we have an issue there, which is not technical as such, because people are going to steal it. Okay, it has high value for resale, but then it is a better conductor. See, it's like materials are going to be technical and non-technical as well. But let's say you have 2 types of optical cables. One is I'm going to install it underground, while I can put it on top of poles and so on. But the specification is going to be different, because the one that you are going to install on poles, it is going to be experiencing weather conditions, sunlight, and so on. So it needs to be UV protected. Where I'm going to write the specification, I will need to see that, okay, this one needs to be UV protected. The same cable, when I'm going to install it in conduit or in ducts underground, I need to write rodent protection because it's going to be prone to rodent attacks and so on. So I need to write. So I'm using my understanding of materials and properties to be able to write specification or selection of equipment and so on. Statement of competencies, okay. Project management tools and technique, okay. And these are the continuation of competence that you need to show. So what is a project? What are operations? This is maybe we won't have time to go over that. Maybe if we have time, maybe next week, we can have another session on project and project management, okay. Tools and technique for project and financial. So briefly, project is about you need to have a start time and end time, and you have a specific scope that you need to abide to. And how do you manage your time? Okay, how do you set the deadline? What are the tools that you're going to use? How do you say, okay, I'm on track or I'm behind schedule? How do I manage my costs? I'm on track or I'm over budget. I have like a lock a fund of 10 million for the project. It is 50% implementation. I've already completed full use of my 10 million, which was allocated to me. So how have you been managing your project? So this is a bit on project management tools and technique. Some common ones are Gantt chart. You can have the PERT system to draw your network diagrams and so on. You also have financial management. Okay. Financial management is how do you prepare, how do you plan a budget? Okay. When you talk about budgeting, you need to prepare a budget, you need to monitor your budget, and you need to record your expenses properly. If for expenses monitoring, it's going to be like an S curve. Okay. Initially, you're not going to spend too much of time, too much of funds, but as a final, maybe 1/3 of the project or 1/4 of the project, this is where more funds are going to be spent and so on. You can use, if you need to select between projects, you have to select the IRR, NPV calculation, depending on which field, which company you're working at, these are going to be relevant to you there. Important as well, procurement, okay? How do you buy maybe equipment or goods, or even procure contract labor, okay? Contractor, how do you go about selecting contractors? If you're working in a government or parastatal body, you need to be able to understand the Procurement Act. Even though if you're working in a private company, if you're bidding for government project, you need to understand what is behind the act, what is allowed, what is not allowed. Nowadays, we are going into e-procurement. Okay, you need to show understanding about the process itself, when maybe different, what is open advertised bidding, restricted bidding, and things like that. Okay, the procurement, the law. So you need to read the Public Procurement Act and the Public Procurement Regulations and get used to that. And if you are in the parastatal or government bodies or even elsewhere, it's good to read about that. Contract management. Okay, let's say you have awarded a contract to a specific contractor. He's not attending site. How do you manage the contract? Do you kick him out? Or so you need to have a look at what's written in the contract. What is the approach to take if you're having contractual problems? What do you need to do? You don't say, okay, I don't like this contractor, I'm going to kick you off, I'm going to put another contractor. But if there's a contract in place, which is usually the case, you need to abide to the conditions of contract. Okay, if you're working according to FIDIC, you need to have a certain maybe understanding about the FIDIC condition. If you are according to another specific, you have new engineering contract, different contract. Depending again on where you are working, you need to be able to show contract management understanding. Risk management, like for contract management, right now you have a COVID-19 lockdown. How are you going to manage contract? You had set maybe a target, a delay, not a delay, a target for completion signed by you and the contractor. Now we have a 2 weeks confinement, definitely is going to move. So it's called a force majeure and things like that. So this is about contract management. You may be having a simple question like this. How do you manage a contract if you are having like in a lockdown? If you have put in your report, you have so many contracts and so on. So how did you manage this contract? As what do you call a force majeure and so on? So you need to be able to explain all these. Risk management, health and safety and risk, okay, may be done together. Maybe before starting a construction work, have you a site assessment? I was telling you just before, if I need to intervene of a transformer, just don't go and start doing my experiment on the transformer. I need to have a safety procedure in place, that is to switch off, to insulate, to isolate, to test, and to earth the system. So this is a risk management approach. A risk assessment has been done. For you as well, in your different fields, you need to be able to ascertain, to monitor the risk, okay? And then see what is, so you need to plan for the risk, not only about monitoring, you need to plan at the start of a project. Okay, these are the top 10 risks which can happen in this project. And if this one happens, this is my risk response. You have a plan for that, a risk response plan, and you can plan, okay, if there's heavy rain, I'm going to operate maybe a submersible pump to push water out of this maybe parking space and so on. So you are able to identify the risk, to plan for it, and to make provision for that as well. Design within environmental constraint. Okay, you mentioned that at the beginning. For me, let's say I had last 2 years, I had to construct a new transmission line going through the woods, through the forest, on top of a mountain. So in this exercise, I had to cut around, not I had, but the CB had to cut around maybe 300 trees, okay, mainly Ravinala and so on, so not endemic trees as such. So, but it is a damage to the environment. I need to build a line to be able to create a reliability in the network, because our system is growing, much more power flow and so on. I had to build a new transmission line. So, but then how about these 300 trees which had to be felled? So we met with the forestry service, okay, they are giving you, because we are not felling maybe endemic trees and so on, we are felling Ravinala trees. And then we were requested to plant 3 and more. For each tree that we have felled, we need to plant 3 trees. So 1:3. So it's a way like we are maintaining some form of sustainability. It's not going to be the same, definitely, but ultimately we are replacing 1 tree by 3 trees, which is like a positive response to environment. Again, when you're building any structure, any design that you are doing, you need to take into consideration the environmental impact as well. Okay, again, different competencies, good command of language and writing skills. We're going to discuss on that. We have a few slides on good technical writing, and techniques, skills, and modern engineering tools. Okay, if you are using equipment, okay, in the past, maybe they were using maybe different types of equipment. Nowadays, everything is electronic equipment, ways by which handheld equipment, even through your mobile phone and app, you can do calculations on site measurement and so on. So talk about that. Display leadership skills. Okay, how do you manage your team if you're on a site engineer, if you are working with a site engineer? How do you manage your team? How do you avoid conflict management? How do you do conflict management and you avoid conflict? How do you how do you motivate your people? Okay, leadership skills. Conducting meetings. Let me just check the chat, it is flashing. Okay, conducting meetings, and what do you like in meetings? Important is about the minutes of meeting and who is chairing the meeting as well. Okay, because if you're discussing the project, it can't go, okay, what happened to Manchester United last night? What happened to Liverpool? So the discussion can't go on different topics, and you have got so many people who have come to this site meeting and you are discussing something which is out of topic. So the chairperson needs to get back people on track. If someone is not participating, how to get him share his views. So this is what you need to learn when you're conducting a meeting, to stick to the time. Right now we are slightly behind schedule. We'll see how we can catch up on that. Knowledge of contemporary issues. Okay, so what is the major project? What is the mega projects happening in Mauritius right now? It's the Metro Express, or the different bridges which are being constructed and so on. So you need to be able to know, let's say as an electrical engineer, even though you're not working on the Metro Express project, what type of current are they using? System, is it AC current or DC current? So at times you need to know it slightly more. Okay, we'll just say, okay, I have focused only on my training. I've not seen what's happening elsewhere. Not only in Mauritius, there was some, how do I call that? equipment which were launched by NASA to Mars. So maybe you should be reading about that as well, just to have. So it's not only about keeping to your baby. Okay, we just need to have a holistic view about what's happening in engineering around you as well. Okay. Now I'm just going to just give you much like 15 minutes more. We're just going to cover the engineering skills and report writing. Okay. Engineers and writing. So basically, when you go up the ladder, you're going to write much, much more. Like 90% of your time is going to be spent in writing. But right now, you're young engineers, trainee engineers, you're going to spend roughly around 30% of your time in writing. So what is technical writing? It's going to be about, it's not, this is what we call a poetic, okay, a poetic a way of describing what is time. Okay, this is not technical writing. Technical writing is when you put in facts, values, figures, and so on, you are right to the point. This is what we call technical writing. So we need to differentiate what is technical versus creative writing. Creative writing is more about, okay, if you want to conquer a girl and so on, you're going to be like creative in your love letter and so on. But here we are going to technical writing is going to lack emotional impact. When you're going to say, I'm going to report on my project, I'm not going to say, okay, this is a project which I love the most. I love this project. And so I dream about it at night. And no, it's not going to be. So you're not going to put emotional impact in it. Typical sentence structures, how you write the sentence, are simple and direct and short as well. It's not around one paragraph, it's only one sentence with so many point virgule and so on. So it's going to be simple structure because technical writing is already heavy to read. And so you need to keep it simple and direct in your approach. Avoid use of rich metaphors and figures. Or rich metaphors that, okay, let's say, those things that we learn about Form 5 or Form 6, you like English and English language, which you're going to impress, you're looking to impress maybe Cambridge and so on. Here, it's not about trying to impress anyone. It's just about transmitting information that we need to give to an engineer friend, to another audience. Technical writing is precise, objective, direct, and clearly defined. Okay, so it's very precise. You don't beat about the bush and so on. What is meant by objective and so on? At one point in time, I've gone through this training as well. I've not, like, when we finish at Essackjee, we go into university and then we go into the marketplace. I was describing a specification for a bolt. I see the dimensions has to be maybe 10 millimeter. Okay, and then my supervising engineer called me and said, what do you mean by dimension? It can be the length, it can be the height, it can be the breadth, it can be everything. So you need to be that what is a precise. What is dimension? It's too vague. You need to, okay, the length needs to be like 10 millimeters. Now you're going to precision. This is what we mean by technical writing. Okay, so what is abstraction? So the precision and abstraction are two different things. On the bottom level, you have abstraction. Okay, on the top level, you have precision. So the more you are going towards in terms of precision, the more it's going to be about technical writing. So low level of abstraction, let's say if you're reporting to like a damage component, if you're writing to maybe the management, the top management, it may be damage component, which cause a fire in the switchgear. But if you're writing to your maybe engineer, the superior engineer, the supervising engineer, so you will need to describe this component. It's not only a component, it's not only an electronic equipment, it was maybe the bypass diode of 333K, no, it's not diode, it's a resistor, 33K 1 watt carbon resistor, which we call a freewheeling diode, was damaged and so on. So you specify, you give specific information because they need it. Your engineer needs this amount of technical information. But for higher management, maybe for board level, if you write 33K 1 watt carbon resistors, they won't understand it. They may understand it, they may be having engineers there, but this information is not going to be important for the master. They just need to know, okay, it can be one resistor, one electronic component fail, and this cause the fire and so on. So high level of abstraction, and then you need to balance that with the amount of technical information which you want to give. Okay, technical writing, we mentioned about precision. There's an art and craft. Okay, we learn how to write technical. It's not like we get it, so it's a skill. So how can you master this skill? Read a lot of these technical catalog, brochures, and magazines that you have. Okay, you can capture this the art of technical writing in there. Okay, so the goal is not to be creative. You're not here to impress. Okay, employing rich metaphors and so on. So again, it's just a repetition to be clear, precise for the audience intended. Okay, if I'm writing the same set of report to my superior engineer or to the head of department or to the management board, the same amount, the same information, I may be writing different set of report depending on who is going to be my readership, who is going to be my audience, and I'm going to change the amount of technicalities in it for them. Okay, think about clarity and precision in your technical writing. So the aim here is how well the reader understands precisely the writer's meaning. You're not writing for yourself. If you are writing in your memoir, then you're writing for yourself because you're going to read it only you. But if you're writing for someone else, you need to think about, will this person be able to understand what I'm currently writing? Your technical report which you're writing is going to be assessed by a panel. They are not maybe working in my environment. They don't know the jargons which I'm using. Will they be able to read, to understand what is being meant by my report? So you need to put it in a very clear language that it doesn't give way to misunderstanding or things like that. Okay, different. So you need to know who is going to read your document, what you need to put in your document. This we have discussed, chapter 1 to 6. Who is going to read your document is going to be your assessors, okay, at the CRP. It's not only your supervising officer, because he's in the same environment as you. He may fully understand what is written there, but think about the one outside who's going to read your document, okay? And then you have, why are you writing this document? To get your registration. 3 things that you need to ponder about. So intended readership, who is going to read, and good technical writing dictates that the document is written for a particular readership. Good use of language, okay, we said at the beginning, communication is so important. So avoid jargons and acronyms. Acronyms, okay, it may be very easy for you, you have been used to that, but for someone else who is reading your report, it's going to make it difficult for him to read. Overuse of complex word can obscure meaning. It's too complicated, we can't understand it properly, okay? Excessive use of technical jargon. At times there are some technical terms which you can't go away with. You need to, but at the first instance when you are using it, explain it, or put a list of jargons or list of technical terms after your table of contents for people who can refer to that later on. Now, in terms of proofreading your document, okay, don't only rely on Microsoft Word. Have someone to proofread your document. Basically, it's going to be a supervisor, but you can have another colleague as well to proofread your document. Avoid these like silly words which can moment petit comme ça comme si c'est une bon bouillani, alors on gagne LIT le premier boussé, on gagne LIT la deuxième crassa et on va aller. Les quatre bouillani là car bon mais il fait 4 ce groupe autre. So misspelling has the same effect in my opinion. Same for punctuation. Errors in punctuation are deadly as misspelling errors. Learn to use a correct punctuation and comma. You know that comma can change the meaning of a sentence. Okay, a few examples here. Okay, we are going to learn to cut and paste, kids. Okay, so learn to cut and paste. Kids is going to come later. So comma, the use of comma is important. Font as well. Don't change font every chapter. Okay, because font matter. Okay, be careful about the font that you are using. On the guidelines, which Mr. Dalia said earlier on, the pack, you will see what are the recommended fonts that you need to use, the size as well. Okay, the purpose is to persuade or share information, what you are doing. So each paragraph, so it's about paragraphing. Each paragraph, you need to share one idea. You can't share several ideas within one paragraph. It's going to create like havoc for someone who's going to read your report. So each paragraph, let's say power cables has 3 advantages. First paragraph, you mentioned advantage number 1, you discussed about that. Second paragraph, so you change paragraph, you explain what is the second advantage. Then third one is good like this. So learn how to properly use paragraphing. Okay, so basically a good technical report, you need to have a technical content, which most of you're going to have, because you are in an environment, you are going to have technical input. You need to have as well the presentation, okay, how you're presenting your report, as well as the LIT, okay, the language that you are going to use, misspelling, jargon, and so on, to make it look good. Okay, so you need to prepare it in such a way that tout carré là-dedans. Du rose pas de mal mettez, billet brossé dents, etc., etc. C'est bien mal peigné, mal gossé, billet fait la boutique, etc. So everything should be perfect when you are going to submit your report. It's so important. Okay, last part, 5 more minutes before the intervention of Mr. Dalia. Stage 2 is the interview. So you apply for registration stage 2. You need to have your eligibility certificate, minimum 24 months of supervised training, the technical report, original plus the soft copy, the training logbook, original plus soft copy as well. You're going to go through, and so it's now stage 2 is going to be split into 2 steps. Okay, pre-interview assessment, we are going to discuss about that. If there are some things which are not as per the guidelines, they are going to ask you to resubmit. Okay, if you need additional information and so on, or additional training. If it is okay, you're going to proceed to the registration, the interview. Okay, if the interview is not successful, you may be requested to have additional training or come again for another interview. If it is the interview is okay, which I wish for all of you, and then you're going to have you're going to be a registered professional engineer. So it is the stage 2 itself is split into step 1 and then step 2. So what is step number 1? A panel consisting of 3 assessors. So you're submitting your hard copy and soft copy. A panel consisting of 3 assessors will scrutinize the submission and verify whether the applicant has undergone stable training. So the training that you have been doing is concordant, is similar to your field. Okay, you can't be doing electrical engineering. You have been trained in civil engineering or communications or things like that. Whether the technical report meets the requirement of CRP. Okay, as I told you, we have several chapters which have been defined. You need to abide to these different, the way the chapter has been described. So this is the pre-interview assessment sheet. So the assessor is going to check your report and just say findings yes or no. Is a compliance with the format. The report is as per the format, the 6 chapters, the different chapters we have discussed. Is it suitable for the applicant qualification? Also, you are going to see your first degree. Is it concordant? Is it the same? Is it applicable to your qualification, your training report? The ratio of main to allied engineering. So let's say you are in electrical engineering. So your allied engineering is going to be mechanical and civil, but you can't have mechanical or civil engineering, which is going to go beyond your main engineering. So you need to have a proper aspect ratio. Is a degree of ratio engineering managerial function. So managerial is about the skills which we have discussed about the leadership skills, the meetings, and all these different financial management as well, project management, risk management. These are managerial functions. Okay, is a degree of practical exposure, or is it only like in a laboratory equipment environment? So you have, or is this like only academic? Or is it only clerical work? Have you been exposed enough to practical engineering know-how? Is there enough design component during the traineeship? So you need to include the design component in your report, chapter number 4, don't forget. Is the level of technical English acceptable? Okay, so if there's anything of them, is this criteria which is missing, okay, they will call you they will inform you, the registrar will inform you, okay, you need to improve on these different things. Okay, step number 2 now, if you have cleared step number 1, you are going to proceed to step number 2. Applicant will be invited for an interview with 2 assessors and 1 observer. Okay, the assessor are here to ask questions, observer is just going to be here to check that the process is going as per recommended practice. Okay, that is opportunities being given for the applicant for the candidate to speak. They're not like harassing you or things like that. So the observer is going to submit another report, independent report, to the council. Applicant, so you start with a 15 minutes presentation on your technical report. So basically you're going to have an introduction and conclusion to your presentation. Then you have a maximum of 6 slides. There's no template for that. Most of you at times they ask for a template because what you want to, this is what you want to expose, you want to put forward, this is your time. 15 minutes, basically there's no question during this time. Okay, basically there's no question. It's just for you to break the ice, to be comfortable, because the most dramatic part of the interviews is this first 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, because if you started with question right from there, many students, not students, but candidates, they become so stressed. So this is like a prepared speech for you, 15-minute presentation. You talk on what you want to put forward from your training. And by then you would have, your body would have calmed down, your level of stress would have calmed down. And then the actual interview process is going to start. Assessors will put questions to the applicant, mainly on technical report and training experience. Okay, it's not going to be on derive this equation, which you learn on in level 4 of your engineering degree and so on. Okay, unless if you have written that in your report. Okay, if your report speaks about maybe a specific derivation which you have been doing, things like that, then they may be asking you, they're not going to ask you to derive it, but they may be asking you, why did you do that? Why this parameter? Why is assumption and so on? Okay, applicants satisfying the interview panel will be recommended to counsel for registration. Else, they may give you feedback on, the registrar is going to get back to you on feedback of what can be improved and what you need to provide additionally. Okay, this is the applicant form. Okay, not the applicant form, how the marking scheme, how they're going to mark you. And let's say you have it already on the CRP website. Okay, where let's say for this one, C1, assess applicant under 1A1 and only other. So 1A1, application of materials, so they will need to assess. There's going to be like a compulsory question on materials, which is going to be set for you. Okay, maybe if you have asked one question, you have not been able to tackle it properly. Basically, what the assessor is going to do, maybe they're going to change question. Okay, another question on materials, or they're going to go to another part, and then they're going to come back to another question on materials. Okay, if you can't answer one question on materials, not that you have failed it, basically they're going to give you another maybe question on materials, then you're going to be able to, they're going to help you. It's not, they're not here to like actually they're here to put questions, to formulate them in such a way that you're able to answer. Okay, so it's a positive approach. And then, so 1A1 is compulsory, and any other one. So it can be 1A2, 1A3 afterward. Okay, so all of these are already available on the CRP website. You can know exactly what type of questions, or what is the field of questions that you are going to be asked. Now, important question for you. I don't know if you're interested. Okay, anyone interested to have a look at the list of questions? Okay, basically we share that in our training. Okay, these are the sets of questions, but it's going to be the one question is going to give way to another questions and so on. Okay, yes, no answer, why? So have you integrated maybe environmental impact in your design? Yes. So give us an example. No, why not? So it's going to proceed like one. So you have lots of questions. This is like a bank of questions, but the interview can go in another way as well, depending on what answer you are giving ultimately. Okay. How did you ensure compliance with health and safety? Okay, it's an open-ended question, but you need to give, when you answer, you give specific hints about, okay, during this project I did that, this project I did that, this did not work out, and so on, and you can proceed this way. So payment now, okay, I'm going to skip that. Okay, you need to pay for the system to work, for the registration. So you not need to pay for the registration, for the application for stage 2. And then upon registration as well, you're going to get your number, you need to pay the council. And then you have the yearly fees of 1,500 to pay. And what next? So it's not, when you register, it's not the end. You need to always keep a brief of new developments happening in the field. And this is how engineering is going to work. Else you're going to forget your basics. You're going to be like a, you're not going to be keep track of what's happening, the new things happening in the engineering field. Chartership as well is another step further if you want to go further. Okay, just to tell you that it's not, as soon as you register, it's not the end. You can, not you can, but you must always continue working, continue learning, and so on. So what do you see? Many people will see we have an optimistic view, the glass is half full, pessimistic view, half empty. But for engineers, the glass is twice the size it needs to be. So it's always about thinking outside the box and bringing about new things. So now I think I've spoken a lot. I will leave the floor to Mr. Dalia, who I think is going to give you some information. So Mr. Dalia, I don't know if you can unmute yourself. I'm just checking, yes. Yes, Mr. Dalia, you can I've shared your slide, you can just intervene.
Do you all see me now? Do you all hear me, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good morning. It's still before noon. So good morning, everyone. So I am Deven Dalia. I am the chairperson of COP for the last 3 years. So I am very happy that Ismail has continued to devote his time to train or to give workshops for young engineers, which is his hobby, I would say. So he has been helping COP and bench children engineers a number of times to train graduates, to organize workshops and train young graduates to apply for council, for registration stage. So I've taken note of some of the questions raised by you. So I'm going to do my best to reply maximum questions you have asked. First question is about the time. What degrees is acceptable for registration? So we have in our requirements, COP requirements, but it must be a 4-year full-time engineering degree after A-level. So you must first have an A-level, and you must also be having a 4-year full-time engineering degree. So that 4-year full-time could span over 5 years, up to 7 years, I understand, in some exceptional cases. But in terms of equivalence, it must be 4 years full-time. Degrees, engineering degrees, 3-year engineering degrees, and we call it MEng or MSc, is not acceptable. So those who have got a 3-year degree in engineering would require to do an additional learning equivalent of 1 additional year, either a BEng, 4th year, or an MEng, which completes what missing 1 year. Okay. In terms of training, yes, it is going to be a minimum of 24-month training. You cannot do away with that, but it's in our regulation. So that minimum 24 months is a mandatory, even in the law. And those who are unable or have not been able to complete 24 months must do so. So there are different possibilities. There are some who had started training and for some reason had stopped and then they had resumed. So it should be a cumulative of 24-month training. We are not asking it. We are not asking, but it should be a continuous 24 months. You can change employers. You can change organizations. You can stop your training and resume. But any training less than 3 months is not accounted for. Okay, so what is important? If you're in an organization for a period less than 3 months, this will not be considered in your 24 months. It has to be a minimum of 3 months in one organization, but it can be as many organizations as is necessary for you. So that would be accounted for. In terms of supervisors, it has to be in an allied field. So it has to be in your, as a priority in your main field, but we accept also allied fields. Someone in manufacturing engineer can have a supervisor in mechanical. Someone in automobile engineering can have supervisor in mechanical. Those in mechatronics engineering can have supervisors as electrical or mechanical or both. So we are flexible at COP about this supervision, but definitely it cannot be a totally different field. It cannot be a civil engineer supervising an electrical engineer. This is not acceptable. Okay. I would just like to go on this slide what Ismail is sharing. So just to go back 2 years ago, until 2019, COP was giving eligibility automatic for certain programs, degree programs. I can mention engineering graduates from University of Mauritius in first class, second class were having automatic eligibility, and those with third class or post level had to go for an interview. Engineering graduates from UDM, UTM, and other universities had to go for interview, irrespective of what grading they have. For overseas students, we were giving automatic eligibility for those coming from Washington Accord recognized universities, and other universities we had to go for interview. So the question was why we were giving priority, or we were giving some a special consideration for some universities and not for others. So last year, in beginning January 2020, COP decided that everyone should go for interview for eligibility. It started well, but then sometime we had this lockdown, and then COP finds itself with a bottleneck with so many applications, not only those from local universities, but even from those coming from overseas universities, and that had caused some difficulties at the level of COP. The second issue was we were short of interviewers because interviewers had to be in the same field as the applicants. And also there was some situations where some young graduates who were very timid and who were not being able to perform at the interview. So they were denied of eligibility, and they were asked to do some additional learning and come in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. But the question that we are putting ourselves, these graduates, we are back from overseas, or we have completed university degrees locally. When we ask them to go and do some additional learning, what do they do? Where do they go? Who provides this additional learning? So it cannot be it can be self-learning, but it's not easy for someone to do that. So we had looked again at this procedure, and end of last year we decided no. I think it was a bit unfair because some applicants were not getting this eligibility. So what we decided, and what we are doing now as from January this year, we are not giving eligibility to the candidate as such, to the applicant as such. Last year, until last year, the letter of eligibility was addressed to you and was saying that you have been found eligible for registration in stage 1. You, when I say you, it's addressed to you, and it was a personal letter. So what has changed this year since January? There are no interviews. So there are no, the procedure has changed. So the letter that you have in front of you, it says kindly to refer to your application I am pleased to inform you that the Bachelor of Engineering honors in, for example, electrical engineering awarded by, let's say, University of Mauritius, we have to put the year in 2020, is acceptable to council for registration. What are we doing here is what we are doing away with the interview. We are giving automatic eligibility, but we don't give eligibility to the applicant, but we give an eligibility to a letter to the applicant saying that the degree he has been awarded at a particular institution is found acceptable to council. Well, this letter of eligibility is not in the law. It's just that when you go to an organization in the public sector, they want to know before they enroll you that your degree is acceptable for registration. They would also go to COP and get a letter of eligibility. Those who are in the engineers training program of the Ministry of Labor are aware that to enroll into that program, you need an eligibility letter from COP. So we shall continue at COP to issue that eligibility letter, but the format of the eligibility is changed. So everyone whose degree is found acceptable will receive a letter. So no one will be penalized, but the conditions that you will sit down prior to apply to registration stage 2, you will be required to demonstrate having undertaken a minimum of years. That was always there in the previous letter. Submit to the council and enjoying training program. That was also in the letter. Your training is deemed to have started on the first day of training as a training engineer. That is new. There was a question, when does the training start? Does the training start from eligibility? No. The training starts from the first day that you start doing your training, whether you have an eligibility letter or not, because the eligibility letter, if you are in a sector where you have started training, but you don't have an eligibility letter yet, but training will be accounted for, okay? In other words, also, if you are in an organization that is not looking for this eligibility letter, it does not matter, because if your degree is acceptable, you know yourself that your degree is being accepted because you have colleagues, friends who had been the same degree. So you can start your training without even this eligibility letter. So you will note, there's a note there, kindly note that the issue of a letter is not a guarantee that will eventually be registered as a professional engineer. When we issue that letter, we cannot give you guarantee that you will be registered. We can only guarantee that if you have a proper training and you submit a correct report and you perform correctly at the interview, you will be considered favorably for registration. So by just doing 2 years, 24 months training in itself is not a guarantee. Why we have to do that? Because in the course, we had issued letters addressed directly to candidates or applicants where they say, we have said that you are eligible. And then you come after 2 years and you say, now I have completed my training. I am applying for registration in stage 2. And then the program has not, the training program, but COP is looking, has not been completed, and that puts the applicant into a difficult situation. 2 years has been completed, but then they say they did not know what was expected of them. So until such time, you can read the second note there, until such time that you obtain your registration, you are not authorized to practice what was always there. So there is an attachment, there is an attachment now addressed to each letter. This is the letter. So the graduate engineer must cover the following areas of activities during his first supervised training under a registered professional engineer having a minimum of 4 years post-registration experience in the same field or an allied field. So same field is just allied field is, I just mentioned to you, what we consider as allied in at COP. So this is very important now. Engineering design and problem solving and investigation. This is in the regulations at COP. You must demonstrate having a minimum period of 40 weeks, attending workshops, lectures on new and innovative technologies 5 weeks, project management and leadership is 40 weeks, responsibility for environment, health and safety 10 weeks, development of personal, interpersonal skills and communication. So it is 4 weeks there, but it is understandable, but you cannot have continuous 4 weeks of development of interpersonal skills. So it has to be over the whole duration of the training, but accumulated to an equivalent of 4 weeks. Broad education, value of ethics, commitment to lifelong 5 weeks. So when you add all that, it makes 104 weeks. It is equivalent to 2 years training. So it is important that in your organization, wherever you are, you have a training program. The problem that we have at COP is that many graduates enter into a job. There is no training program in the organization. They just do most of the time they are assigned to a site or they are assigned to one activity in the organization. Ismail mentioned if you do 24 months in the procurement department of the organization, that does not cover these requirements. If you are in contracting, you are for example, working in an organization, you are in the elevator department, 24 months we start elevators, you are installing air conditioned equipment during 24 months. So that is not what COP is requiring. You have to show that you have received competence in all these 6 attributes that we have listed there. Obviously, we are not going to be difficult if you are not having able to show, for example, 40 weeks in engineering design, but you have shown 30 weeks. We are not going to be difficult, saying that you need 40 weeks, you're 10 weeks missing. But you will understand that when we say engineering design, 40 weeks, it cannot be 0 weeks, it cannot be 10 weeks, it cannot be 20 weeks. It has to be close to what is the minimum period that is required. I know, I am aware, we are aware of COP, but there are some difficulties for applicants to get all these attributes. But it is a question of organizing organizing your training. So when you go to CB, Ismail is aware. Ismail has a training program at CB, but unfortunately, in many of the organizations, I can mention Essackjee, WMA, who takes graduates on training, we do not have a training program. So at the end of the 2 years, the applicants cannot demonstrate to COP that they had proper training in all the attributes required. In the private sector, it is worse. I know it is worse because you're assigned one particular task, and most of the time you are either in consultancy doing only design in the office, you don't attend site. Others are sent on the site and they spend all their time on the site for 2 years, and they lack some of the attributes like engineering design. So you need to ensure that when you are enrolled in an organization, there is, first of all, a supervisor, a proper supervisor, minimum 4 years, and then you sit with your supervisor, with HR department in your organization, and you try to set up a training program for you so that you do not do repetitive work. I mentioned that those who I keep on mentioning in all of the workshops, those who do the same thing every day for 2 years, we don't consider that 2 years training. We call it 1 month training repeated 24 times. So, and this is not acceptable to COP. So I think I am sure now you have understand, but when you are on a job for your first employment, just ensure with your organization that we have a training program set for you. And we are also in the under the training engineer scheme with the Ministry of Labor. And so now those who goes on this program, employer has to show and submit a program to Ministry of Labor and submit the name of a registered engineer before Ministry of Labor would sign training to this organization. So that is already being implemented. So I just go for the list of questions, but I've noted down. Health and safety, I think one of the most important attributes is health and safety. You would understand that whatever an engineer do in their duty, they have to take on board, we have to look at the importance of health and safety. So health and safety, whatever you do, you have to ensure and safety of people around you, yourself, the public in general. So this is one important criteria. Protection of the environment, I don't have to mention it. If you as an engineer, you are doing something which is going to disturb or destroy the environment, then you would be considered not to be a good engineer. Okay, right. Supervisors, I mentioned. So there was a question on French degrees. French degrees is there's a document on CRB website which you can get access to. It is a 3-year license of the bac plus a additional 2 years is Masters 1, Masters 2. So for French degrees, you would require a minimum of 5 years study after your bac, okay? Or bac or HSC. You may have an HSC and you enroll on a French program, okay? One question on extension of training. Also on the training program last year, we have been provided for an extension of 72 days for the training. Why? Because the regulation of CRP is very clear, a minimum of 24 months. So for 72 days, those who have not been able to work, so Ministry of Labor and your organization have extended your training by 72 days so that you can satisfy CRP during the time that you were not working. We are aware that some of you have been working at home during this COVID period, but we don't have any direct straightforward reply to that. Working from home, you must demonstrate that during that period that you have still been supervised and you have still been receiving proper training. Working is one thing, receiving training is more important for us. So if you can demonstrate that during COVID last year you were still working from home, but you are satisfying the requirements of CRP, I don't think it would be a problem, but the onus would be on the applicant to show that it has been so. I mentioned about less than 3 month training will not be considered. Coming back to the 3-stage registration. So the first stage 2 registration, Ismail has mentioned about 2 steps. The first step is submission of a training report plus the training report book. This is assessed, and once these are found to be acceptable, then you go on your call for interview, and the interview would normally be totally different team of assessors. So because we are short of assessors, we have said that at least one could be the same person who had assessed your technical report. In the slides that normally I show to graduation engineer, I think Ismail has mentioned that also today. Once your report has been found to be acceptable, when you go to
Hello, I think Mr. Dayak got disconnected. Let me just check. Yeah, maybe he's going to reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. Applicants had submitted a very nice report, but when at the interview, we were unable to demonstrate or to show to the interviewers. You are getting me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So there have been cases where we had to ask the applicant to complement, not to write a new report, but to complement the report, because when we are asked to go and do additional training because there are shortcomings in their training. So when we are asked to come back in 3 months or 6 months time, so then this additional training that we are being asked to undertake, we ask them to complement the report by adding this a new section in the report, a complementary report, to demonstrate what we have been doing. The other issue is that when writing your report, you can get help. You can get help from your supervisors. So your supervisors help you to write your report. So we have noted that in some cases, I mentioned when you receive help, but you are unable to demonstrate on the interview whatever you have written in your report is entirely from you, because some of the components have been written by your supervisor. So there is no now guarantee that if you do not succeed at the interview, you will not be asked to complement your report by additional an additional submission. Okay, right. So a training program in your organization I mentioned. So yes, we have already decided. We understand what is needed now for young graduates to get CPD courses. So in fact, since January, we have decided at Council, at CRP, to organize some CPD courses for young graduates. Not only young graduates, but even graduates who have already received a registration, because they need to improve their knowledge even after registration. So we are coming up with some program. I wanted to see how today's workshop goes on Zoom. So most probably, Smile, if we initiate the first training, the first CPD, which we are planning to have it on effective meetings. The subject would be effective meetings. So maybe 100 applicants would easily be taken up, and many will not be able to follow. So we need to discuss and see how we can, if we can use another platform to be able to get maximum participants. And we wanted to have it face to face, but now we are in a very difficult situation. So we don't want to lose that opportunity, and we'll take that opportunity of being confinement to organize as many online CPD courses for you. Okay. So just to add that at CRP, we have already moving towards application online. So hopefully in 2 months' time, this is a planning that we have. The system at CRP would be all digitalized, and you would be able to make an application directly online, upload your reports, and everything will be done without having to come to CRP in Phoenix to do that. So that is already in the not in the pipeline, it's already ongoing. So we hope in two months' time this will be in place. And after that, each applicant, each registered engineer will have a password. They would be able to go on the CRP website and add on information. There would be blogs. There will be a lot of exchange on information between engineers. Okay. So and so there was a question of what should be presented in the small presentation what is required prior to the interview. Well, but a small presentation is just has been initiated just because otherwise people when you go to the interview, you do not know who the interviewers are. It's only when you are called inside the room that you will meet your interviewers. So there have been some situations where people were panicked because they were under stress when they move, and then they can't reply. And so the first question that was put to them, they are unable to reply, and then the interview goes very wrong. So this presentation is just, well, I think 5 slides, 3 minutes on each slide. So it's going to be just take whatever you have put in your report, just 5 slides, excluding the cover sheet and the conclusion sheet. And you will be asked to talk on 5 minutes on each slide. So on 3 minutes. So 3 minutes times 5 slides, only 15 minutes, which is what the time we're giving to you. And you are aware that you cannot write and read one slide in 3 minutes because there's a lot of writing to be done. We want only that you put the main item on the slide. Maybe, well, the first slide would be on you, chapter 1. The second slide will be on your organization. You talk 3 minutes on you, 3 minutes on your organization. Then the other 3 slides will be on the other chapters in your what you have been doing in terms of design and or in terms of training, and demonstrate the different competencies. So this we will leave it to you. What we want you is during the first 5 minutes of the interview, you are given the liberty to talk. The interviewers will not put any question to you. So it's just like I call it breaking the ice to make you at ease. You talk, we listen, the interviewers will listen to you. And when you have finished your presentation, then the interviewers would come with a question. So one interview would normally last for 1.5 hours. So you have to be prepared. You have to ensure that whatever you are writing in your report, you are accustomed to, because most of the questions will come from the report, but you are aware that the basic principles of engineering. You may be asked a question and you cannot say I forgot it, because this is a principles you use it in your everyday life as an engineer, so you can't forget the basic principles. And what I wanted to say is that you may also be asked, you will be asked questions on the training, you will be asked questions on your organizations, you will be asked questions on the projects that you have been asked for. There is a list of questions which you have seen, which I am willing to circulate with you, and all the questions will not be asked to you. You can download the form of the assessment and the assessment sheet, and you will understand the different types of questions that may be asked to you. Okay. So CPD courses I mentioned. I think I've gone through all the list. Any other questions? You just let me know. I'm willing to reply. Let me go. Should it be scanned copy with signature of the supervisor? Yes. But in the digitalization process, you will be asked to scan your report and send it online. Okay. Obviously, when you prepare your report, you are normally asked to submit 1 hard copy and 1 soft copy. Not only the report, also the training record book. So how do you prepare the soft copy? You convert it to PDF and then you send it on a CD or on a pen drive. So you will be able to upload that soft copy directly online. But what is scheduled to happen as from May? Let's put it like that, because we are targeting towards May to have this system in place. So I don't know whether this present confinement will affect what. So we will keep you in touch. Okay. there was a question. I need to scroll up. So yes, is one design enough? Yes. If you are on a project, you must bear in mind that you do not need to follow one project only from start to finish to be able to submit your report. You may join in an organization when the project has already been initiated, the design is done, you're starting your construction. You may move on a project where construction is halfway and you're asked to start from there. You end the project, you do the testing and commissioning, then you go on another different project. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you have one project only. You have, because if you're in an organization, you do a smaller project. So in 2 years, you won't be doing one project. You may be doing a number of projects. It doesn't matter. What is important is you have to demonstrate the 40 weeks that you are involved in designing your organization. These 40 weeks can be on one project, can be on 2 projects, can be on 10 projects. It doesn't matter. But if you're doing, for example, I take a civil engineer, if you're doing steel or concrete beam design on one project, we do not expect you to do steel beam design on all the 10 projects you're submitting. Then you must work out on foundation on others. You must work out, I don't know, the different aspects, because you have different aspects of design, so you must have a broad, cover the broad aspects in your design, and not do the same design for all the projects. Is computer IT engineering considered in this law? Computer engineering is you have to check. There are some programs which are acceptable by council, eligible. There are some programs which are not eligible. Computer technology, I think, from University of Mauritius is not acceptable, because at council we have noted that there is mainly software in there. There's not sufficient engineering. But computer engineering from certain institutions are acceptable because it covers a large component of engineering. So what is acceptable? We have computer engineers or IT engineers who are registered with council. So there's no problem. Okay. Let me scroll up. Procedures to submit the technical report. I think we've done that. Digitalization. So lectures, we will keep you informed, but we will be doing it through COP. So you need to regularly get into contact onto the website of COP. But now during confinement, we want to initiate 1 or 2. So I will ask Ismail to circulate the invitation to you, and we will do it to another forum as well, to the Institution of Engineers and to the COP website. Okay. I mentioned if you are doing one activity in your organization for 2 years, but it would not be considered suitable for registration. Okay. I think I've gone through most of your questions, right? Anything you would like to add? Just send a small message on chat, and I will try to reply. Ismail, you would like to take over? Just to add on a few?
I think it was a wonderful session. And thank you, Mr. Dalia, for intervening. Mr. Dalia is the chairman of COP. I think you have got the answers from the right person here. And thank you, everyone, for your participation. It was like more participants than we expected. So many messages reaching me out right now. People telling me that they could not attend. It was already jam-packed, but it is being recorded, and I'm going to share the link maybe tomorrow. By tomorrow, I'm going to upload it on YouTube and share the link on my page, and you can share it with your friends as well. So keep watching. We will see how we can organize more sessions for you, link with engineering management or things like that. preferentially in the confinement to keep you busy as well. Now that you know how to write a report and when to start writing a report, you can start doing it using these days fruitfully. And so I will invite you to take care and don't venture out if you don't need to go out. Take care of yourself, and we wish best of luck to each and every one of you. Thank you, Mr. Daria. Thank you, all participants. So see you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Bye.